What's up, Vinyl community? It's your boy Ryan back here with another video. Now today we're going to be doing part 2 of my 3-part essential records from a certain decade series. And of course we're going to be doing probably my favorite decade of music, the 70s. I don't know, I love the 80s a lot too. I've got a lot of records from there as well. But I do love the 70s, as you'll see in this video. I've got a ton of 70s records. The majority of my collection itself is probably just a lot of 70s stuff. Because I think we all agree the 70s had some amazing records. Now, unlike in my 50s and 60s records video, I won't be giving too much insight into the records on my opinions, just because, of course, I've got tons of records, and if I kind of gave a lot of my opinion, this video would go on forever. So I'll show you the album and then maybe just kind of say a little bit about it, but not too much. I don't want to make this video be too long. I don't want it to be like 40 minutes. And so, yeah, let's just get into the records. First off, we've got AC/DC with Highway to Hell. If you're a classic rock fan, you've probably already got this record in your collection, but if you're a classic rock fan and new to vinyl collecting, this is a must-have. Next up, we've got Badfinger with Straight Up. I mentioned them in my underrated records video because I love Badfinger a lot, and this one is probably their best, and it's got probably their two biggest songs, Baby Blue and Day After Day. Next up, we've got my favorite Beach Boys album, Sunflower. Great album. Now we've got the Beatles' final album, Let It Be. Regardless if this is one of your favorites or one of your least favorites or just kind of in the middle, I still think this is an essential album to own. It's a classic, and it's got classic Beatles songs on it. Next up, we've got Big Star with their second album, Radio City. Big Star, they're a very underappreciated band as a whole. They've definitely got their cult following, and they made some amazing, timeless albums, and this one's the best of their albums in my opinion. Next up, we've got another album that if you're a fan of classic rock, you've probably already got this record, but if not, and you're new to collecting, this is another must-have. Next up, we've got Parallel Lines by Blondie. Now, I definitely prefer the debut album, but I mean, this one, it's a classic for a reason. It's got One Way or Another and Heart of Glass. I mean, need I say more? Those two songs are classics. You've probably heard them a million times on the radio. Now we've got the record that's on my shirt. We got Boston with their iconic debut. Love this album a lot. It's essential, another classic rock essential. Next up, we've got David Bowie with his album Hunky Dory. Now, there definitely are a few other albums I prefer by David Bowie, but I mean, this one's still one of my favorites, and if you're new to David Bowie, this one's the one that I recommend starting with first. Next up, we've got the Cars with their iconic debut album. This is a great power pop record. It's an album that you can find for probably a decent price in good condition, and if you can, make sure to pick it up, because I mean, this album just is all killer, no filler. Now next up, we've got tie. There are a few albums that, or I guess a few bands that have ties, because I couldn't just pick one album. It was really hard for me to do. And that first band is Cheap Trick with their debut album, and then At Budokan. The debut is definitely my favorite Cheap Trick album, because I mean, it's got all their best songs on it, but this one is their biggest album, I think we can all agree, and it's also got their most well-known songs on it. So if you're gonna get Cheap Trick, make sure to get either one of these. Next up, we got a record I just got recently and I'm happy to have, The Clash with London Calling. They proved to be more than just a flash-in-the-pan punk band. They had the title of the band, Only Band That Matters, and this album is great. It's definitely a bit pricey to find, but it's worth the money in my opinion. Now we've got Commodores with their greatest hits. Now, this is an album you can find dirt cheap anywhere in as good condition as this. And it's got some really good songs. You got the classic Brack, Banana House. You got Easy on it, and then my favorite Commodore songs, Three Times a Lady. It's a beautiful ballad, and just a really good greatest hits compilation. Ooh, now we got an album I love and I've been listening to so much recently. Elvis Costello with his debut album, My Aim Is True. This one's just another all-killer, no-filler album that you can get for, at least original US pressings are pretty cheap. UK copies can be a bit more pricey, but I mean, this is just a really good debut album, and I love it. Buy it if you can. Now next up we've got John Denver with his greatest hits. Now I know in my underrated albums video I kind of referred to John Denver as just he made a lot of music with just being a guy and a guitar. However, this album, his greatest hits, takes all the guy and guitar stuff and makes it into one amazing greatest hits album. And it's the only one that you can find for dirt cheap, and you'll just want to sing along to all the songs, make you want to pick up an acoustic guitar. I love it. Great compilation. Next up, we've got another album that, whether you're a fan of classic rock or just kind of a basic rock fan or whatever, you've definitely got this album. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. I mean, it's I think in the top 10 best-selling albums of all time, and it's a great album, so it's worth the hype. And if you don't own it, you're missing out. Next up, we've got my favorite live album of all time, an album I talked about in my nostalgic records, an album of course I love a lot. Frampton Comes Alive. This album is amazing. It's another dirt cheap record that you can find, and it's well worth it, even though I had to pay $20 for it because I love it that much. Ooh, now we got an amazing album, masterpiece. What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Amazing. I love this album. I don't even know. I think I can describe how amazing it is. Just listen to it, and you'll see what I mean. It's a masterpiece. Next up, we've got The Jam with In the City. They're kind of a punk band that didn't really get credit here in the U.S. as much as they did in the UK. And I mean, they're just as good as bands like The Clash, and their debut especially is great. You should find it and get it. I love it. Next up, we've got Janis Joplin's Pearl. She had an unfortunately short life and career, but this album is really good, and at least not around here, it's not too common, but I was able to find a nice copy of it for a pretty cheap price, and I'm sure you probably can too. If you can, make sure to pick it up. Next up, we've got Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures. I mean, another masterpiece and one of my favorite albums of all time. You're probably have to get a new copy because originals can be pretty pricey, but still, this is just an amazing album I cannot recommend enough. Ooh, another masterpiece, Carole King's Tapestry. I love this album so much. It's so beautiful, especially the song You've Got a Friend. It's one of the most beautiful songs of all time. It brings a tear to my eye every time I hear it because it's just that beautiful. Buy this album if you can. You can generally find it for dirt cheap. Now I've got our next tie, and that tie is with Kiss. We've got Alive and Rock and Roll Over. Now personally, I wanted to choose just Rock and Roll Over because I love this album a lot, but Alive is just their breakthrough album. It's classic Kiss. It's got Rock and Roll All Night on it, and I mean, if you're a fan of 70s rock, either one of these two albums are albums that you should own. And now we've also got another tie. We've got John Lennon with his first two albums, Plastic Ono Band and Imagine. These two I flip-flop on which one's the better album each time I listen to them, because while this one's an amazing, just great masterpiece, dark album, this one also, even though it's a lot more commercial than this album right here, it still is so good. It's got its classic Imagine, Jealous Guy, which is maybe my favorite John song, and I love the song How and Oh Yoko on it. Either one of these two albums are just, you need to have them in your collection if you're a Beatles fan or a John Lennon fan. Now we've got another Beatle, Paul McCartney with his album Ram. This is definitely Paul's best album, and I don't think you'll find anyone who disagrees with me because this is also pretty much the fan favorite. It's a great album. Next up, we've got Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with Damn the Torpedoes. This album just kicks ass all the way through. It's all killer, no filler, rock and roll. And I mean, if you just casually like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, or if you're a fan like I am, you need this album in your collection. It's amazing. Buy it. Once again, if you can. I don't want to force you to spend money if you don't want to spend money or just don't have money at the moment. Next up, we've got Pink Floyd with The Wall. This one's another masterpiece, my personal favorite Pink Floyd album. I mean, it's just a beautiful rock opera, and I cannot say enough good things about it. Now we've got The Police with their debut, Outlandos de Amor. I love this album a lot. This one and Synchronicity, I flip-flop as to which one's my favorite, because The Police, we all can agree, made some great stuff. And this one, along with Synchronicity from the 80s, is just beautiful, beautiful albums. This one's post-punk reggae album, and it just kicks ass all the way through, like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes. Now, I had to include Prince because he's my favorite of all time, and so even though he only released 2 '70s albums, I decided to choose this one because this one's definitely one of my favorite Prince albums of all time. It's really good. It's a disco-y album. It's got I Want to Be Your Lover, the rockin' Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad, the funky, sexy dancer, Bambi, even though the lyrics are kind of the guitar work is incredible. Still Waiting is a great song, and it's got I Feel For You, which became a hit for Shaka Khan when she covered it. This one's got the original Prince version on it. Ooh, now we've got another post-punk great album, Public Image Limited with First Issue. This one's definitely a strange album, but that's why it's so good, because it's got John Lydon from the Sex Pistols. He wanted to do something really different, and boy did he achieve that. This is a great album. I love it a lot. Post-punk amazingness. Now we've got Queen with News of the World. This one's probably, it's tied with Queen 2 as my favorite Queen album. I should have included that one in here as a tie with Queen 2 because, I mean, those two are great albums. I did not like that noise the gatefold made. I don't think it broke, that was the record. It was probably just the gatefold. But anyways, on to the album itself. This is amazing, amazing. It's got We Will Rock You and We Are the Champion, which, of course, we all know. If you've been to a sporting event, you know those songs. But it's also got some amazing deeper cuts like Sheer Heart Attack, Spread Your Wings, Fight From the Inside, It's Late. This is probably, if you're going to choose one Queen album to get, this one's the one to get, in my opinion. Now we've got the Ramones with their iconic debut. Now, I was originally going to choose Rocket to Russia because that one's probably my favorite Ramones album, but this one's definitely probably the most iconic and classic. You know, it's got Blitzkrieg Bob, Beat on the Brat, Judy is a Punk on it, and I mean, this one's just a killer debut record. It doesn't waste a minute of your time, even though it's only like 30 minutes long. Great album. If you can find it, get it. Now we got Lou Reed with his album Transformer. Now I kind of think his album The Blue Mask is his best album, but this one still is the album that got me into Lou Reed. It's a great album. I'm pretty sure we all know it. We've probably got it in our collection. It's got his classic songs like Vicious and Perfect Day and Walk on the Wild Side. I mean, it's just a great rock and roll album. Gotta love Lou Reed, and he's a legend. It's unfortunate he's no longer with us, but he left behind an amazing catalog of stuff from his solo, as well as with the Velvet Underground, of course. Now, next up, we've got the Rolling Stones with Sticky Fingers. This is probably my favorite Rolling Stones album. If you're gonna get a copy of this album, make sure you get the one with the zipper still intact. That one's a cool little thing, in my opinion, that they included, because later pressings just have a sticker, or not the sticker, just a printed on thing of the zipper, which is a shame because the zipper is what makes it sound fun. But yeah, this is probably their best in my opinion, and it's great, of course. And make sure you get the zipper one if you can find it. Now we've got, I think, our last tie of this video, and the tie is between A Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres by Rush, because I mean, these two I flip-flop between which one's my favorite all the time, because A Farewell to Kings, it's great. I love Xanadu a lot, and the final closer, Cygnus X1. But then this one has Cygnus X1 Book 2, which takes up the entire first side. It's just so good. And then side 2, you got Circumstances, The Trees, and La Via Strangiato. I mean, these two albums are just killer 70s progressive rock albums. I couldn't pick just one. So make sure you get either one of these two, or both. Yeah, assuming you don't already have them in your collection. Now, we've got a record I've been talking a lot, as well as a duo I talked a lot in my past couple of videos with Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. This one's a masterpiece, beautiful album. It's quite the way to end off your discography because this is their last album they ever put out, and what a way to go out on. I think everyone will tell you, whether you're a heavy metal fan, rock fan, folk fan, whatever, that this is a great album, and if you don't own it, you really need to own it. Next up, we've got art rock proto-punk legend Patti Smith. Gotta love her, she's adorable. And this one's a killer album. It's got Gloria on it, Free Money, Kimberly, Horses on it. This is just a great proto-punk art rock album, it can be a bit pricey, but I assure you this album is worth the money. Next up, we've got a man who had a classic run of albums from his debut up until 1987, Bruce Springsteen with Darkness on the Edge of Town. This one's probably my favorite of his 70s stuff, as well as my favorite Springsteen album in general, because I mean, it's so good. I know a lot of people probably prefer Born to Run, which, don't get me wrong, that one's a really good album, but this one I just prefer the bit more darker sound to it. I love Adam Raised a Cain, and The Promised Land is my favorite Bruce Springsteen song a lot. It's so good. Great album. And also, if you've never seen the movie that came out last year, Blinded by the Light, based on the movie of Bruce Springsteen, you should watch it. It's on Hulu now, and it's a great movie, and this is a great record. Ooh, now I got Talking Heads with my personal favorite album. There's Fear of Music. This one I love to death a lot. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. I love E Zembra, Life During Wartime, Cities. Heaven is probably my favorite song on this album. It's one of my favorite Talking Heads songs in general. Talking Heads made some great stuff, of course. I mean, just look at their critic reception, what fans will tell you about these albums. But of all their albums, in my opinion, this one's their best. It's the one that you should get if you're just wanting one Talking Heads album. Ooh, next up we got an album that it's definitely got a cult following, and it's really good. We got Television with Marquee Moon. They were a part of the CBGB punk scene, but they weren't really punk at all. I've seen them credited as post-punk, and I mean they kind of fit into that, but they're really, like, especially with this album, it's a rock album, but it doesn't really fit into any specific genre. It is like its own thing, and that's why it's so good. Like, you won't find, like, if you describe it, it'll just sound like a basic rock album, but you won't, once you hear it, you won't find any other albums that sound like this album. It's just so good. Next up, we've got Van Halen with their iconic debut, Need I Say More. It's just another killer 70s rock album. We got Eddie Van Halen on guitar. You gotta love him. He's my favorite guitar player of all time. This is my favorite Van Halen album of all time. Next up, we've got the Velvet Underground with Loaded. Not my favorite Velvet Underground album, but it's definitely a great one that they should have made their last one, but unfortunately Doug Yule made a stinker album after this one called Squeeze, which that's not the point of this video, but Loaded is just a great album. The final album with Lou Reed, and even though it's just kind of a basic 70s rock album, the Velvet Underground always made the best out of each album, and this one really shows how great they were at making just sing-along songs that you can enjoy. Next up, we've got Neil Young with Harvest. This is a classic folk record. I love this album a lot. It's got some amazing tracks. It's got the classics Heart of Gold and Old Man on it, but it's also got some other really great deep cuts like The Needle and the Damage Done and the title track Harvest. And now for the final record, we're going to be doing a soundtrack, and that soundtrack is the iconic Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, which, you know, of course got the Bee Gees on it, but it's also got some other really great songs on it, like Disco Inferno by the Tramps. I love some of the instrumentals on it, and my favorite song on here is More Than a Woman by the Tavares. That's just a amazing soul song. It's so beautiful. Those guys sell the song. They do it way better than the Bee Gees did. And I mean, even though I've seen the movie once, Saturday Night Fever, and it wasn't that great, the soundtrack is incredible, and it's an album that you all need to own in your collection if you're looking for 70s stuff. So yeah, those are my essential 70s records. Like I said, it's a lot, and even though all those may not be your cup of tea, at the same time, you should check out some of them. If you find them for dirt cheap somewhere, you should pick them up. And yeah, I can't wait to make the 80s video. I've got a ton of 80s records as well. I don't think there's as much 80s records as there were here, but I've still got a lot, and I cannot wait to make that video. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.